If you don't know me, my name is Pete Moriarty, and I'm all about helping small business owners succeed. Our mission in our business, IT Genius, is to help small business owners play a bigger game. I've been working in the small business space literally since I was a teenager. And so I'm here to help you guys be successful. Now, to the hosts, if you don't mind, maybe just spotlighting me, because I won't be sharing screen, but I'm seeing Dale on my screen, so you might need to spotlight me. Thanks, guys. Wonderful. Cool. And so we take businesses through the different stages of their growth using something that we call the growth roadmap. And this is basically the different stages of technology strategy that you need for each different stage as your business grows. If you're interested in that, head along to our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions along the way, I also have a link at the top of the slides here where you can ask questions live. And I'll be doing some Q&A at the end of this as we go along. And also, because you're members of Business Blueprint, we actually have a special deal for you. All of our resources, discounts, tips, tricks, all that kind of stuff is all in a special repository for Blueprint members. You can head along to that URL. So if you're interested in doing business with us or getting any help or info from our team, then please head along to that URL there, and you'll get access to all of our Blueprint gifts. I semi-retired at 27. I built and scaled a business and then basically exited, helping small business owners with their tech, but building effective systems in business. And that's basically what I'm here to share. We built Australia's #1 Google partner for small businesses in IT Genius. We've continued to grow and build other businesses, and I've worked with pretty much all the major brands in Australia that are, have built successful and significant businesses in the services space, which is pretty cool. And we've also built a pretty significant remote team as well. This is our team in the Philippines. We've got over 60 team members in the group now across multiple companies, and so I'm here to share as much as I can about how all of that works. Now, we were actually running a remote team before COVID happened. About 6 years before COVID happened, we were running completely remotely in our business. And so we had to work things out along the way before it was cool to be remote. And so we basically ended up in a situation where our business was expanding. It was founded in Sydney, and we had customers who were calling us from different cities in different states. And rather than jumping into the traditional route of like plonking different offices in different cities, I decided, okay, well, it's probably a good idea for us to start to engineer our business to be, ubiquitous across different locations. And so it would mean for us that we could service anyone in Australia, but it meant for our customers that they would be able to work with us no matter where we were. And in many cases, they would get, faster service. We were a tech support company. We still are a consultancy. And so we want to work with customers wherever they are in the most convenient way. And we wanted to be a low-cost operator as well. We wanted to be very, very affordable for small business owners, because we know that small business owners can be tight with cash as they're growing and scaling their businesses. And so we wanted to make sure that we were actually someone who was very affordable. We like to think of ourselves as the AirAsia of the IT world, where we're providing really great value and really great service, but we're not charging crazy amounts for it. So we ended up, changing the nature of our business. We were, previously doing the traditional IT services thing of getting, like on-site service people to go to our customers' offices. And we decided, okay, we're going to switch to do everything remotely. And rather than our customers paying us, what was at the time, thousands of dollars a month for our IT services, we actually had our team do everything remotely from there on, and then our customers were able to like halve their IT bills, which was really awesome. And we've been able to grow and scale quite successfully from there. So I'm going to be sharing with you here 11 tips on how to make a remote team work. It's now been 8-9-ish years that we've been running remote teams. We have some staff in Melbourne. We have many staff that work from home. Our team mostly work from home. We've got one office in Melbourne that the team go to like 1 or 2 days a week. We have a large team in the Philippines who all work exclusively from home. So we're one of those completely distributed companies where people are primarily working in their own places rather than coming to an office or a central place to work. And I'm going to share basically open book as much as I can, all of the secrets and wisdom that I've learned along the way. Now, this is an 8-hour course that I'm condensing into about 45 minutes. So if you're interested in more information on this, head along to my YouTube channel. Just jump onto moriarty.co and there's a link to the YouTube channel there. Or you can, if you're a Google Workspace user, you can get access to something called Genius Academy for free. And that is available on our website. You just need to transfer your billing for Google Workspace over to IT Genius, and you get access to Genius Academy, which is a free resource which has the full 8-week course called Remote Work Playbook. And so if you're interested in that, I'll make it available for all Blueprint members. Just drop a message through to our team, fill out that that form, that special URL form, and you'll get access to that. Okay, without further ado, let's jump into it. So number one, I'm going to set you some homework. And sorry to do that first up, but you do need to do some homework. And that's that there's two very important books to read on running a remote company. One is called Remote Office Not Required. And the other is called The 4-Hour Workweek, which is pretty popular. You've probably already heard of that. But these are the two books that are really going to get you into the mindset and the correct frame of actually running a remote company and a remote team, because it really takes a bit of engineering to get it set up completely correctly for you and for your business. Remote is written by the owners or the founders of Basecamp, which is an online task and project management system. And that was basically their learnings from running a completely remote company for over 10 years before pre-COVID and pre-everything else, basically before it was cool. And so that's very recommended. It's like, 1 or 2 pages per chapter, super short and sharp. They've got another great book called Rework. And if you like the style of short and sharp and very, very actionable, then that book is very easy to get through. But once you've done your homework, let's start to get into some of the basics. I mentioned that our company are completely distributed and everybody works at home. And that's because there's a bit of a remote working scale. Now, you've got on one end of the scale completely office-based, people driving into an office every day of the week. And then from there, you've got different kind of stages of distribution of your team. Now, all the way on the right-hand side of this graph here, you can see you've got completely distributed teams who may even be digital nomads who are, working while they're literally traveling and they never come to an office ever. And so your business is probably going to find somewhere along that scale which is natural, which works for your business. I mentioned that one of our teams and one of our companies, one of our brands in Melbourne has an office which staff come to just 1 or 2 days a week. So that's kind of like a hybrid setup. Some businesses may have staff in different time zones, and that comes with its own challenges of distributing work and getting the team together for meetings and calls and those kind of things. And so what my advice here would be is to, try and pick a stage or a level of remote work that works for your business. You're going to have a natural cadence that works for you and your team with how you want to structure the business and how it works. And right now, you're probably going to be in negotiation with your team on how that actually works. Raise your hands if you've had chats with your team at the moment where they desire something different to what you've actually set up for them in the business, or at least I hope at least you're having conversations with the team about what options you have for remote work and designing a workplace that's going to work for your team. And I'd love to know from you, if you're live on the call right now, what is your current preferred setup right now out of these different levels of remote work? What's your preferred setup working with your team members? All right, cool. So we've got some chats starting to come through here. I'm going to open up my chat so I can monitor that. Wonderful. Cool. Hybrid setup. Yep. Most people want to do hybrid setups, office and home, remote in many time zones, 2 or 4, meaning work from home or work from home option. Yep. Excellent. Okay, cool. Jacqueline says, we're a mechanical workshop, so we need to have an office, but we're currently recruiting for our first employee in the Philippines. Wonderful. Claire says, home with a monthly get together. Oh, love it. That's great. We're going to talk about get togethers. Very, very cool. Excellent, guys. So we, have obviously built and grown quite a large team. We have them primarily working at home. That comes with all of its challenges, and I'm going to cover some of the very specific ways to manage and work with a team at home. But you can see here that our team seem pretty happy. We did ask them to smile for this photo, but the team seem pretty happy there. The main point here is that I'm sharing is to be intentional with the kind of business that you want to build, and also have your team involved in that process as well. Okay. So next up, we've got to talk about, okay, what are some of the changes that happen when a business moves from working in an office to going remote? Or if you've already gone remote for now, what are some of the things that you need to think about to make sure you get right, because there is an absence of them as you're working in the office? Well, number one is you miss out on the element, and I just love this photo. It's so like 90s power suit. It's amazing. And so one of the things that you're missing out on in the actual office is the visual representation of what work is to be done at the moment. Most offices will have like a whiteboard up on the wall, or you'll have like your project laid out there on a piece of paper, or you'll at least have the human contact of day to day of this is what we're doing, this is where we're going. And traditionally, that would be the responsibility of the business owner, who's probably going to be there every day. And you've got it up in your head of, all right, this is where we're going, this is what we're doing. And you're also probably the manager, right? You're keeping people in check, on target, you're keeping them aligned to the goals, you're keeping them aligned to the project plan. But when everyone goes virtual and goes home, you actually miss that magic. You miss the physical human experience of everyone being connected together at the same time. So what are some of the things that we miss there? I mentioned we don't have the check-in, we don't have the whiteboard on the wall, but some of the other things that can be challenged are, knowing whether or not your people are actually working. Knowing whether or not work is actually being done, knowing whether or not your team are actually productive, allowing things to be picked up when they fall through the cracks. Because what you're actually missing is the natural chitter-chatter of being in an office together in a co-working environment. And the advantages that you have in a co-working environment are that, while you're sitting at your desk, you can hear one of your colleagues chatting to a customer on the phone, and you can overhear the conversation, and you can hear, oh, is that customer chasing you for XYZ project? Oh yeah, Bob's working on that on the other side of the office, right? And so they're just the natural things that kind of happen in an office that disappear when you go remote. And so the fundamental change that you need to make is there needs to be a lot more structure in the way that you work as a team, specifically around executing your strategic initiatives. But number two, there needs to be a lot more communication as well. In fact, I would call it communication overhead or over communication to actually keep people connected and in check. Because the risk is that if your team are not engaged in their work, or if they're not in good communication with their team, or if they don't have a really clear direction and North Star on what they should be working on and where the company should be going, they can kind of become little lost lambs. And what happens is they can kind of start to drift away from the business a bit. Now, it's probably less likely for that to be a problem if you had an already established team who have worked for you for a number of years and you start sending them home either part-time or full-time to do work for you. But further down the road for your business, if you are really committed to managing and growing a remote team, you'll probably hire staff members that have never been primarily based in your office. Or if you're expanding an international team, you'll hire staff members that may never visit your office. And so you start to have the challenge where they haven't had the experience of being in an office all day long, seeing the way that you work and getting a vibe for the level of productivity that you expect, the level of work output that you expect, and just the way that you interact on a day-to-day basis. And so it's very important to have some strategies to actually manage that. So how do we manage these? Number one is making sure that we stay in good communication, and we use a chat program for that. Now, instant messaging in a business scenario can be a bit of a challenge. You run the risk of interrupting people's work. It's getting harder and harder to do productive, deep work these days. But the reality exists that you need to have some way of being in quick communication with your team. Now, you can use tools like Microsoft Teams. You can use tools like Slack. We happen to use the Google ecosystem because we're a Google partner. I would strongly discourage you using something like WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger for this, even though I see many businesses doing that. And that's because those apps are consumer apps and they're not really great for threaded conversations. We see business owners putting everybody in a WhatsApp group and then starting to voice message people. And I think that's just absolutely bananas, because you end up in a situation where people are having to like trawl through the work chat, and that's really going to impact their productivity. So I'm very strongly against those, but I'm very strongly for using a business chat application only where it is appropriate. Be very, very careful about how much you use this, because remember, chat is the equivalent of walking up to someone's cubicle, knocking on the door and saying, hey, are you free right now? Like you're interrupting their work. Whatever work they may be doing, you're basically interrupting that. And so be very, very careful with that. So chat should only be used for urgent communication. Only be used for urgent communication. So what do we do with the rest of the communication? Well, many businesses use internal email for coordinating tasks, chatting to their team, getting their thoughts on their things. And I would strongly discourage you using internal email. Instead, I would recommend you use a task management app. Now, we happen to use Asana, but you could use anything you like, whether it's Trello, whether it's teamwork.com, whether it's Basecamp, whether it's Rike, whether it's monday.com. There's a million different options. Pick the one that works for you. We happen to use Asana. We've put it in hundreds of businesses, and so we really love the app. This is where all of your non-urgent work goes. It must go in a shared project or shared task system. If you're an electrical services or a contracting company, it might be in your job system. If you are a manufacturing business, it may be in NetSuite or some kind of distribution or inventory type software. But you need to have that one place where all of your tasks and all of your projects go. Now, even if you are a business that's doing, for example, you have people who are out on the road doing work and you've got staff in the office managing things, even if you have a job management system, if it doesn't have projects and tasks for your team, you may choose to spin up a different app as well to manage your tasks and your strategic projects. Because on a strategic level, the business really needs a way to keep your team connected for strategic tasks as well. Now, question has come through, what about Slack? Yes, I would say that Slack is absolutely okay to use, but if you're in the Google ecosystem or the Microsoft system, I would ask, why would you bother using Slack? It's an extra cost. It's an extra subscription to manage. If you're using the free plan on Slack, there's some risks to that. Like once you pass the 10,000 message limit, you can't access the old history anymore until you pay for it. So my recommendation would be to either choose Teams or Google based on whatever business operating system you happen to be using. So tip number 4, let's start to talk about the other stuff. What are some of the other things that you miss out on when you go from an office-based team to going to a remote team? Well, number 1 would be social time. It's very important for you to find a way to recreate your social events that would normally happen in an office environment or in a face-to-face work environment and have them happen virtually. So what might that look like? Well, what's your virtual version of Friday night drinks? We have an online meetup with our team. It's once a fortnight on a Thursday afternoon, and we hang out for 90 minutes on a big Google Meet. We play games. Sometimes they watch movies. Sometimes there's activities that the HR team works out. And that's basically our time to goof off, enjoy time together. We'll often give the team like a budget for them to buy, whether it's beer or pizza or food or dinner or whatever they want. And we all just basically hang out as a team and spend social time together. For a team, our team, who don't see each other unless it's like once a year when we do our team meetups, they are devoid of that human contact with their team members. And what you miss out on is walking to the coffee shop together to get a coffee and having some idle social chit chat. What they miss out on is going out to the pub on Friday night and having a drink together as a team and, getting a little bit loose and getting into those social conversations. So it's really important that you find ways to recreate those social rituals in a virtual way. Now, we'll use some of our Google tools to make that happen as well. You can see here on the right, we've got some pretty sexy looking, scrapbooky type things. This is using Google Jamboard. And Google Jamboard is an online whiteboarding tool which lets team members collaborate. And so down the bottom, I think it was a like show off your favorite foods from your city. And then up the top there, that looks like some kind of some kind of accountability chart around food, I think, but all I can see is pizzas and hamburgers. So I don't know how well they're going. Don't know how well they're going with that one. Okay. So the next thing that you miss out on when you go virtual is effective one-on-ones. Usually in an office, you'll get pretty ample opportunity for managers to check in with their team and have little one-on-ones. Whether that's walking to the cafe together, whether that's just jumping into a meeting room quickly together and having a quick little chat, whether that's working on a project together and you're in a meeting room and as a manager you can say, hey, everyone can go, but Bob, I want you to wait behind, and you just have those little one-on-one chit chat moments with your team. They can fall by the wayside when you are working remotely, because what tends to happen is you shift from a lot of idle and spontaneous conversations with your team to being very disciplined and deliberate when you are actually scheduling meetings. So what your calendar will probably end up looking like, which is, something like my calendar here. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see, is I've got lots of meetings scheduled back to back on my day and not many gaps. And what ends up happening there is you end up with, your situation being that there is less and less time for those idle catch-ups. And what tends to be missed is the personal one-on-one time. And so it's very important to actually schedule personal one-on-one time. It's not as spontaneous as being in an office together, but it is still very important. Scheduling your personal one-on-one time means you can deliberately ask the questions. How are you going? How's your family? How are you doing in your role? What's going on outside of work right now? How's your mum? How's your brother? All of those kind of questions that you would normally naturally have happen in an office, but maybe forgotten when you move to just showing up for meetings that are scheduled and otherwise, going about your work by yourself. Cool. All right. So we have a question here that has come through from Anthony. I didn't understand the last point. Did you recommend using separate software for strategic issues versus your ordinary routine tasks and operations? So Anthony, what my specific advice there was, if you have a job management system that doesn't do general tasks very well or general projects very well, that's where you may choose to have a second system for your task management. If you're like, let's say you're a consultancy and you only have projects to deliver to your clients, then you would just use like one project management app like Slack or Asana or Monday or Basecamp for everything that you deliver. Cool, but thanks for asking. Okay, so the next one that you miss out on when you're working remotely is your opportunity for shit talk, and that is basically the Watercooler Chat. And so you need to find a way to recreate a way for your team to enjoy the banter, the culture building, and the human relationships that would normally happen in an office that can be a bit harder to do when you are remote. If you're communicating via something like Google Chat, or if you're, even though I don't recommend it, using emails internally in your company, or within your task management application, if you're communicating on projects with your team, it's probably going to be expected that everyone is in professional work mode, right? But for us to bond as humans, we also need some non-professional time as well. And so what we actually set up was a water cooler thread inside our Google Chat. And so let me go and open that and show you guys what it looks like. And so our water cooler thread is basically our place that the team can goof off, share stuff that's going on about their lives outside of work, share memes, share GIFs, share updates of what's going on. You can see these photos here, I think screenshots from one of our last parties that the team had. We had a glam party, so everyone's showing their glam shots. What I cooked for dinner last night, what my internet connection's like at home. This is one of our team members who presented at Google in Manila. And so this is just all of the standard kind of socially stuff that would normally happen in the business. And so that happens inside our chat program, but it's basically in a certain place that the team can make use of that. We call that the water cooler. You can call that whatever you like. But that's one of the most important things for our team, to still feel like there's a bit of an officey vibe rather than a very dry, professional, you must always be in business mode style of communication. Wonderful. Okay, so let's move on. Tip number 5, let's talk about talent sourcing and how you can find phenomenal talent. I'm going to talk specifically about hiring and growing remote teams in the Philippines because that's primarily where we hire, but you can apply this to growing remote teams offshore and internationally pretty much anywhere that you are. So there's a number of different ways for you to build up a international team. And what most people do when they start is just hiring contractors. And so hiring, someone from Fiverr.com or Upwork is pretty popular, or freelancer.com gives you basically an opportunity to hire somebody by the hour. And they're probably going to be a professional contractor of sorts. They're probably set up to be a freelancer and they're probably ready to do project-based or time-based work right out the gate. That's a good place to start when you're just getting started out. Maybe you don't have enough need for a full-time role right now, or maybe right now you just need someone to help you get started with a couple of things. The downside of these kinds of workers is you're not going to get the longevity of a relationship with a full-time staff member, but it's certainly a good place to start. Number two would be managed staff. And by managed staff, I mean working with a staffing agency or a talent agency. And this would be my recommendation for your first 2 to 5 hires when you're building an international team. This is probably the easiest way for you to get your foot in the door of building an international team without having to learn all of the overhead of actually managing different cultures, different countries, different time zones, different currencies, and the 50 things that you need to learn when you're growing and scaling a remote team. This just makes it easy because somebody is managing the HR, someone's managing the culture, someone is managing and making sure that your team are actually working. Somebody is, giving your team an experience of, working inside your company where they are actually supported on the HR side of things. And this would probably be through a virtual staffing agency. I know that Blueprint is affiliated with WorkPod, and also the Virtual Hub are a partner that we work with from time to time. These are agencies that you can go and say, hey, this is the kind of person that I want. And then they will recruit for you. They'll manage the person and they'll take care of everything. Now, one downside of that is it's going to be more expensive than growing out your scaled team. So once you get above 5 staff and you've got a pretty good handle on scaling up your international operations, you may choose, if you want to take on the additional burden of the human resources capital, you may choose to actually start hiring directly. And when we hire directly, we're able to get significantly better rates on our labor costs. And we do that by basically hiring internally with our team. And I'm going to share you what our hiring and onboarding process looks like, so you know what the key things are that work for us, so that you can build your own remote team directly when you're ready for it. Now, the job site that we use the most in the Philippines is called Online Jobs. There's plenty of other job sites out there, but over the years, that's the one that we've had the most luck with, and that's onlinejobs.ph. Wonderful. So let's talk about hiring and onboarding. How do you actually make this work? Now, there's a big question that you've got to ask yourself, and this really comes down to, are you going to work with an agency who are going to have all of your staff in one place, in one location, in one office, or are you going to allow people to work from home and have them actually, work from technically any location? They could also be traveling as well if they wanted to. You might also want to think about this question as well inside your own business, inside your own city, in your country. Do I want everyone coming to one place with the advantages that you get from all the human connection in an office, even if it's only time to time? Or am I going to allow my team to work from home from another city? And let me share this with you. This is what one of my friends shared with me, which convinced me to go to a fully remote team. Now, we were hiring a team in the Philippines when we first started, I think nearly 10 years ago now. And we were hiring in the city of Cebu. We had one staff member in Cebu, and we thought, you know what, we'll just continue hiring staff in Cebu, and then, we'll kind of build up our team there. And what one of my friends said to me was, well, Pete, Cebu has I think 1 million or a couple of million people in the city. But the Philippines itself has 110 million people. And so if you're just hiring that city, you are restricting yourself to 1% of that country's talent. And I went, oh, wow, that's pretty crazy. And so since we opened up our team to be able to be hired from anywhere, it comes with all the challenges of actually working individually from home for everyone. But we've been able to attract absolutely phenomenal talent. And there's just no way that we'd be able to find the same talent that we have right now from everyone working in one city or in one place. Even within a single city, and this is a bit more Philippine specific, but within a single city, it can take hours of commute time each way for someone to get to an office. And that's pretty much the norm in Filipino culture, to jump on a jeepney and, sit in traffic for an hour or 2 hours each way to get into the office and back. But just have a think about how that may affect the health of your team. If you're hiring in the Philippines, there's carbon monoxide ingestion. They have much less time with their family. And for a culture that is very, very family focused, That's not fantastic. But also there's all the additional costs with traveling and paying for meals in the office and all those kind of things. So I'm a strong proponent, if you're willing to take the jump and do the extra overhead of having team work from home and work remotely. Plenty more stuff that you've got to manage, but it is available and it can work. So one of the things that we do to really stand out as an international employer of preference is we have a really solid career page on our website. So you can head along to itgenius.com/careers and check this out for yourself if you like. And there I've got a little founder's letter, explaining the kind of talent that we're looking for. We've got some pictures of the team and, a little bit about the business and some of the initiatives that we do to give people a bit of an idea of who we are and why they might be interested in applying to work with us. We put down our company values there and what's important to us as a business. And importantly, we also share our Glassdoor review profile, which is basically like a public ratings profile of staff that have worked at your company. And so we've got a 5-star review there, which is pretty awesome. And it gives our team an opportunity to actually see what are some of the other staff saying about working with us. Next up, when we onboard our staff, we're very, very rigorous in making sure that we give the team the right training very, very quickly to get them onboarded. And the primary tool that we use for that is Google Classroom. Google Classroom allows us to build out different modules like they were in a school or a university of learning that they need to be onboarded into our company. And you can see here there's modules for all the different apps that we use, Dialpad, Hiver, this is one for the development team, Asana, Copper CRM, G Suite, now Google Workspace. Communication is in there as well. So there's a communication course. Bill is our internal billing system. And so in there, you effectively have everything they need to know to get started inside our company. Now, if you've ever worked for someone else before, and I had one real job in my life working for a small business, you would know that getting started in a new role can be a little bit daunting as a new employee. When I started in the job that I was working in, it was a small business. They had 3 employees in total in the business, and it took me 6 weeks to work out what the F was going on in that business because there was no training, there was no onboarding, there was no documentation, and I basically just had to learn on the go. But I want staff to be productive from the first week or 2 of getting started with us. And our team have 1 to 2 weeks of onboarding. They spend some time shadowing staff. They spend some time going through our training program and our documented systems and processes. And then they are ready to work and get started. And what that's allowed us to do is rapidly scale and expand by getting our talent productive very quickly. And so making sure that you have your systems documented, I don't need to preach to the already converted here, is very, very important for you and your business. And for documenting your business systems, we use Google Sites for that. And so you can see here, we actually have a dedicated first week page in our Google Sites, which is our online intranet of all of the systems, processes, policies, how-tos, and training for the business. The Google Workspace Classroom is where the team go to actually check off their modules and watch particular videos, and they have to do quizzes and submit results and those kind of things. Whereas this GeniusNet, we call it, is the intranet where we store everything in one place. And that is the go-to for the team to actually learn everything and also have as a resource if they ever need to check how a process is done. All right, cool. So we've got some questions that have come through here. I'm going to cover a couple of questions. Matt has said, Slack has been changed. You now get unlimited messages, but only up to 90 days, which is worse than the $10,000 limit. I agree. That sounds terrible. Okay, wonderful. Can you use Google Chat like Slack? Yeah, effectively, you can. G'day, Aldwin. It's been a little while since we've seen each other. Yes, you can use it like Slack. Google Chat is effectively a rip-off of Slack. Cool. Rodney has said, for 1 to 5 virtual assistants, it's worth the cost of a managed service. At double the price of hiring direct, it may seem more expensive, but not if you factor your time spent managing your virtual assistants yourself. Once you grow beyond 5 to 7 people, you can then switch to self-manage and directly hire team members and staff to manage your team for you. Yeah, absolutely agree, Rodney. Thanks for sharing that. Are there non-Google products like Google Classroom? Absolutely, there's a million. You could use something like a full-blown LMS, learning management system. If you Google LMS, you'll find a bunch of them. There's also some that are specifically designed for team training, like I think Guru is one of them. That's like a browser plugin that allows you to document business systems and add things in there. You could also use something like a WordPress membership site. And there's a million plugins for WordPress member sites. Some of those will have learning management systems added on there as well. So plenty of other options. System Hub also has a learning aspect. Yeah, correct. Yeah. So System Hub combines both documentation of your systems, but also has some structured learning modules in there as well, effectively doing what we are hobbling together with Google Sites and Google Classroom. We use Google Workspace, so these tools are available for free. So that's why we recommend that customers make use of that if you're already using Google Workspace. But if not, you're looking for something different, there's plenty of other options out there. Wonderful, cool. Sophia, hopefully I answered that question for you. Just let me know if I did. Great. So next tip is monitoring versus managing. Many businesses, when they go remote, start to have that fear in the back of the mind of the business owner that, oh, my team are not working and I need to find a way to control and manage and make sure that they're working. And they start to go down the route of monitoring people's computers or monitoring people's devices or having them doing, overarching check-in type procedures. And my recommendation for you is to instead focus on performance management and KPIs rather than monitoring what your team are actually doing by the minute or by the hour. If you have effective KPIs in your business and they have been designed so that they are actually aligned to work output and they're aligned to the team bringing value to your business, it shouldn't really matter how many hours a day they're working. Now, yes, obviously you want to make sure that nobody's, goofing off or actually underutilized. And so you want to make sure that you're doing the correct checks and balances for that. But overall, it is my recommendation that rather than bothering with any kind of desktop monitoring software or anything else, you just focus on really strong KPIs and you have them aligned to business goals. And then you have strong management. Being a strong manager means if you've got a team member who's maybe a little bit slow to check into meetings or maybe they're falling a little bit behind on their work, that they actually deal with that on a human level. You deal with both the process side of managing that human and you also deal with the personal and human side of working with that person as well. You'll see other things that I've mentioned, like making sure that you have your one-on-ones tied in, making sure that you have your culture aligned to mission and vision and values with the team, making sure that you have the adequate social time with the team, make sure that you're building a human relationship with them in the way that you're working, means that they're probably going to be a lot less likely to be goofing off. Or if they are underutilized in their work, they're going to be more likely to come to you and say, hey, you know what? I'm not really that busy at the moment. Let's work on getting me a little bit busier. So that comes down to strong management and strong leadership in the business. But when you do all the other things in business right, making sure that your culture is aligned, mission, vision, values are aligned, you're likely going to be, doing a lot better with that. And I think fundamentally, if you start installing monitoring software on your staff machines, it sends the message that I don't trust you. And I don't really want my team to have that message. And so we've so far chosen not to do that. And the team are pretty happy about that. We have a high-performing team, and we have cultivated a team that gets amazing output, is aligned to their work, and we have very, very low turnover and churn with our team members. And you can check out our Glassdoor reviews, to show you the way that the team love working with our business and tend to stay with us for a long time as well. In the IT industry, there is typically a turnover of 20 to 50% per year of staff, and we have staff that are tenured for years and years and years and years on average. And so we know that we're doing pretty well there. And so that's really the most important thing for you to build is a well culturally aligned team, and you're going to get good performance out of them. Now, it's not to say that you don't look at actually, managing the numbers in the business well. And we do this pretty well inside our business. This is using a Google tool called Google Data Studio. It's a little bit technical. I probably wouldn't recommend you building something like this out yourself. But if you're interested in a custom dashboard for your business, our team will build this for you as part of our concierge membership. But what Google Data Studio allows you to do is pull in data from all different kinds of sources from your business and create a KPI dashboard with it. Now, when is the right time to create a KPI dashboard in your business? You remember I talked about our growth roadmap and different stages of business. I'd say probably when you're starting to enter the late stages of the growth stage, or maybe you're starting to reach into the scale stage, which is like you've got 12 to 20 employees and your business is really starting to grow and you're looking to fine tune the performance of the business so the business can actually scale. And so that's where something like Data Studio makes sense. And this is not about turning people into numbers. What this is really about is being really transparent with where the business performance is at, and then allowing your team members to work towards their number. And so building that performance into the culture of your business by opening up the dashboard every time you have a meeting, sharing the real numbers of the business with the team, having the team involved in setting KPIs and choosing what are the most effective numbers we can choose to track productivity and output in our business means that everyone's going to feel like they are a part of the performance of the business, and you're going to get better performance overall for everyone that is involved. So that's what we try and do is rather than monitoring people's end computers, we want to try and as much as possible manage the performance, and that tends to work much better for our team. Okay, so let's talk about getting together. Key meeting cadences. How do you make sure that your team are actually working when they're remote? Where when you're in the office, you have the luxury of just being able to look over their shoulder and seeing what they're up to. Well, we recommend that you put a lot of effort into the strategic planning of your business. And if you're a member of Business Blueprint, you're probably already doing this automatically, which is great. But making sure that your business has a foundation of strong strategic execution means that you're going to be able to do a lot better as you're working through the business, with people actually running remotely. And so we recommend a particular system for that. You can call it EOS if you want. It was actually originally came from Vern Harnish. It was called the Rockefeller Habits. But it's all outlined in this book called Rocket Fuel. And this is an excellent way of running your business with setting yearly goals, quarterly targets, and then monthly and weekly initiatives as well. And so these are the ways that you want to keep your business going. But you need to find a way to do these remotely. And so how do you do your huddles? Are you going to do those in chat? That's one way of doing them. Or do you want to actually jump onto a meeting with each other and do a huddle in the morning with a scheduled meeting? That one's up to you. We've got teams that do it both ways inside our business. Personally, I prefer the human contact for our managers, but I'm not actively involved in the business anymore, so I kind of leave that to those that are. Secondly, you have the opportunity inside your business to do your strategic planning together. And so we will actually do our quarterly and our annual meetups, sometimes virtually, but also sometimes in person as well. And so working on the strategy of the business should be an everyone involved task. And that means that you're going to get everyone on board for that. Now, what does that look like when we do a meetup? We used to do meetups quarterly. Now that we've got a much more matured business, we actually do them every 4 months. So we have 3 seasons per year instead of 4 quarters. But for your business, you're probably going to be doing them quarterly if you're still in the growth mode or the scale mode. And what that looks like is getting the team together and working on the strategy of the business together as a team. We'll do that on a Google Meet. We get everybody on one virtual meeting. Sometimes if people want to meet up in different cities, they'll actually meet up in different cities and we'll pay for food and accommodation and letting everyone go out and get drunk together and have a party and that kind of thing. But what that means is that you get your team together on the building of your business as a team. And we make sure that that happens quarterly, but then at least once a year, we actually fly everybody into the same city and do that together as a meetup. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. Number 9 is healthy humans. You need to make sure that you are managing the health of your humans and the way that they are working. That starts with the ergonomics of working at home and actually doing checks on what your team workspaces look like. We had all of our teams send us a photo of their workspace at home, and we had our HR team give recommendations on how they could be, improved and how they could make sure that they had the correct setup there. So they actually have, like the right chair and the right desk and everything, so they're not actually hurting themselves. But you also have a little bit of flexibility as well. I took the photo on the right yesterday. Sometimes I'll do meetings just from an iPad sitting on the balcony, which is really nice. I live up in Burleigh Heads on the Gold Coast, so it's forever summer here, which is beautiful. And so that gives me the opportunity to have a little bit of a break in the way that I'm working, so I'm not stuck in an office or in a home space all day long. there's a number of interesting things that start to come into play when you are working from home. And I've been working from home on and off for about 10 or 12 years now, I would say. And so I want to share with you a couple of things that I've learned that are very, very, very important, aside from the absolute basics. The absolute basics are like having a good workspace and having a space that's different to where you're living and blah, 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 all of those things. Number one is state changes. State changes mean when you are finishing work mode and you want to switch into home mode, you need to have a state change. Now, that for me means changing my clothes. So I actually change out of my work clothes. I've got a work uniform, which is a black shirt. I take off my work uniform and I change into different clothes. Sometimes it will literally be going for a 3 or 5 minute walk outside the house, or I'll be, doing something different, or it might be a little workout, but just something to kind of like break my frame of being in work mode and then switching to being in home mode. It may be changing the music at home. It may be changing the aroma at home, burning incense or something like that. It might be opening a door that was closed. But having a ritual around the state change from work mode to home mode, and of course in the morning from home, personal, family mode to work mode, is very, very important for you to manage. And I'd recommend you decide whatever that ritual looks like for you, but then be very militant about making sure you do that. If you want to work from home and if your team want to work from home, it is very easy to fall into the trap where your work life and your personal life kind of like mold into one. And, in the worst cases, I've heard of, people waking up, rolling out of bed or rolling over in bed, staying in bed and opening their laptop and getting to work. And that's just so unhealthy. It is absolutely not sustainable over any period of time. It immediately will lead to employee burnout. But without that polarity of the work mode and home family mode, it just doesn't work. I've got other recommendations like managing the notifications on your mobile phone. My recommendation is basically you switch all your work notifications off, apart from chat. Leave your email notifications off, leave your project notifications off. The only notifications you should really have on your phone are chat, because that's like the, hey, something is urgent. And then I would also recommend that you make use of the out of office tools if you're using Google Workspace as well, to help you mute and silence your notifications too. So what that looks like is if you're in Google Gmail here, I can open up a new event, and I can click out of office, and I can say, all right, today I'm actually out of the office, and it's going to automatically decline any events that my team have set for me. And it's also going to let my team know when they try and chat to me that I'm actually out of the office. And so let me go ahead and open up. I've got a chat here from one of my team members, Aya, who's actually just messaged me this morning and said, hey, I've got she's got some domestic situation. She needs to take emergency leave. You can see right down the bottom of the chat here, there's a little message that says she is out of office and back on Thursday. So little tools like that inside the Google ecosystem make it very easy for you to be notified when your team members are out of the office or not available, and for your team to know what you're up to as well. Using something like Google Chat also allows you to have status inside your chat. It used to be called, presence, or known as presence in the IT world. But you can see here that automatically my status has been updated to in a meeting, because right now I'm in a meeting. So anyone who's dropping me a message on Google Chat knows that I'm in a meeting because it's linked into my Google Calendar. But if I want, I can choose it to do not disturb, or I can even say I'm away today, or I'm away till XYZ time. And it's going to mute my notifications and let the rest of the team know what I'm up to. So these are little signals that, normally you would know someone's not in the office when you're in the office because they just don't come to work. These are the kind of things that tech can really help us to get our heads around. Okay, so Nicole has asked, are there other notifications such as in Teams for these notifications? I do not personally know, sorry, but I'm sure there are presence indicators inside of Teams. That would be, pretty. There we go. Someone said there's an option there. You can click your face on the top right and then edit your status message. Wonderful. Cool. The last thing that I will mention is, making sure you manage the polarity between your personal relationships at home. And I'm sharing this with you so you can also share it with your team as well. For those that are new to working at home or haven't worked at home before, relationship dynamics can change in your personal relationships. If you have a partner or you have other family at home, if you are spending much more time together, you actually miss out on the polarity of spending time apart. And, the heart grows fonder with some distance and with some yearning. You want to make sure that you have ways to have distance and to have space. Anyone who's been stuck working with their spouse on lockdown over the last couple of years would probably know that it can get a bit crazy if you're in someone's space 24 hours a day, particularly if you also have the added, stresses of work on top of things as well. And so having a system and a way of managing that, whether that's exercising separately or doing activities separately, or one of you going to a co-working space from time to time, or you alternating your days at different offices if you're going into an office sometimes. They are all very important for you to manage and to think about, but to also educate your team on as well, because your team might not actually think about these things. And creating a culture of healthy working at home is very important for you if you are leading your business and leading a remote company. And so you've got to be the expert at it, and you've also got to share it with your team as much as possible. So next tip, I want to talk a little bit about the technology stack that you need for your work setup. You're obviously going to be choosing a number of different tools to bring together your remote work team. And here are just some of the ones that we really love and think are very effective for small businesses. Copper CRM is one of our favorites. This is an online repository of all of the communication and relationship management between you and your team members. And so you need to have some kind of customer relationship database where you're making notes anytime you're chatting to a customer. If you've got a project or a task or anything else, that all of the communication is being documented. Because while you're in an office, it's very easy to just lean over your desk, over the cubicle, and ask someone else, hey, how's that project going? Or how's that customer going? Or did we deliver that to them on time? Or why is their project running slow? But when you're running remotely, you need to actually do that via a technology tool if you don't want to be on the phone or on chats to people constantly all day long, which is not very productive. And so Copper CRM is our recommendation. It integrates beautifully with the Google Workspace ecosystem to make that happen. Number 2 is a tool called Hiver, and this is a shared mailbox app. Now, Hiver allows you to have a shared common mailbox that your customers can email and your team can actually collaborate on. Now, if you're using Gmail and the Google Workspace ecosystem, think of it like a shared label system. It actually lives right inside of Gmail. And what Hiver allows you to do is have customer queries come into a central mailbox like help@yourcompany.com or orders@yourcompany.com or support@yourcompany.com. And then your team can assign that customer's request to one of your staff members. You have things like KPIs for measuring what your response times are. You've got customer service satisfaction, so your customers can give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down on how well you're delivering. And what that gives you is a way of seeing how productive your staff are if they're managing customer service requests. But it also gives you one place to communicate with customers so that all of your communication is actually centralized. Now, this is like a ticketing system that IT businesses use, except nowadays this system is very smart and no one even knows that there are ticket numbers and that you have a system in the background. Your customers just see email going back and forward and they just experience great support when your team are using it. Next up, we recommend a cloud-based phone system. We happen to use Dialpad. We're a partner for Dialpad as well. And this works across your mobile phones. It works on your computers. And it gives you local business phone numbers across all of your devices. And you can have call queues. You can see all the calls inside and outside of your business. And that is an absolutely phenomenal app. Wonderful. Okay, so Asana is a task management app that we recommend. There's plenty of task management apps, so we've talked about that quite a lot. You want to make sure you have something there for task management. And then you want to have something for like collaborating and whiteboarding. We happen to use Jamboard. We recommend that, and we've got other videos on that on our channel as well. So check that out. And of course, the foundational layer that ties all of this together, storing files in Google Drive, meeting up with our team using Google Meet, emailing our customers using Gmail, scheduling with our Google Calendar, and then using chat to communicate on a day-to-day basis is all in Google Workspace. And that's where we see small businesses really succeeding, is when they tie a number of tools together that all talk to each other nicely and all work really great for small businesses. we happen to support all of these tools under our concierge program. So if you're interested in implementing any of these, we can hook you up with discounts, professional implementation, and all of the professional support needed for any one of these apps to get your business really, really humming and singing. So if you're interested in that, please jump on the link, reach out to our team, and we'll be able to help you out with that. Don't sign up for any of these apps until you've talked to us first. Because we can help you out with billing. You don't have to pay any extra for consulting if you don't want to. If you just want to bill through us, then we'll throw in some goodies and can potentially hook you up with some discounts. But we're here for all of the support that you need for any one of those tools. So let's talk about tip number 11. This is the Supercharger. This is what really, 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 really makes things hum for you and your business, and that is getting the team together. And so no matter where your team are, making sure that you have a ritual of connecting your team, bringing them into one place, spending human-to-human time together, sitting down, having a beer, talking about life, talking about the business, just actually connecting on a human level is the most important thing that you can do for your remote team. We used to do this once a quarter. It became cost prohibitive to do it every quarter, unfortunately, but we now do it at least once a year. We had to stop for a couple of years during COVID, so I was very excited to bring the team all back together just recently in July. And I think I've even got some. Some photos of that in my Google Photos. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to that. Oh, can I find it? Going to take a moment to load. We've got so much going on here. Here we go. Cool. So this is we had a white party here at on one of the beaches, which was really fun. And so what we do on these trips is, they're really about connecting socially with the team. So our CEO Scott there is sharing some stuff with the team. We'll do a mix of business and company initiatives, but then also spending lots of social time together. Primarily, we're spending time together as humans, having fun and letting those social bonds really be built with each other. We went here to an adventure park, which was pretty awesome. Plenty of meals together. The HR team organized like an amazing race style activity for everyone, which was pretty awesome. We booked out a whole hotel because we had that many people, and basically got to enjoy the whole place to ourselves, which was really nice. And you can see here, this is really the way that we get to connect our team all together. I think this is some kind of like Twister style hopscotch that the team had as one of the activities. And so that's the way that we build a successful team. We'll have all of our managers and our leaders, share company updates and strategies that we're working on. And these are really, the most special way of bringing our team together. And for a team that are working primarily from home, primarily distanced from each other, this is the way that we bring everyone together to feel like they are part of a team. But apart from these times, they get to just be with their family and be in their lives and spend most of their time, working with their own setup at home, which is the most comfortable place for them. So I'm a big proponent of working completely remotely. We do have a team in Melbourne who like to be in the office at least once a week because they, have like physical hardware and they're shipping computers to people. But for at least for IT Genius, that team is all pretty much 100% remote. Wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to go to Q&A now. I wanted to say thanks so much for joining. You can jump onto that slides link there if you want to ask some questions, and I'm going to go and check if there's any questions there now. For anything that you want to get access to, head along to that URL, itgenius.com/links. And that's going to get you access to my social media if you want to connect with me on Instagram. If you want to jump onto our YouTube channel, which I recommend you subscribe and check out. If you want to get a consultation from our team, just jump onto that URL there, and hopefully someone will drop that in the chat. That's going to get access to all of our team. And our YouTube channel, I've got quite a few subscribers now building up there. If you're interested in learning more about Google Workspace, about working with remote teams, I've got all kinds of helpful information here for business owners. And so go ahead and check that out. There's lots and lots and lots of videos there. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and you've got everything you need to know. There's also, where are my playlists? Here we go. In the playlists feature, we've got different playlists based on the the stage of business that you're at. So if you're a startup business, we've got a startup playlist. If you're a growth business, we've got all our growth videos. Or if you're a scale business, no matter what stage of business you're at, and whether or not you're in the Google ecosystem, it doesn't really matter. You're able to access business information. I've consulted to 5,000 plus business owners, and I've been doing this for 18 years now, technology consulting, literally since I was 15 years old. And so I am just trying as much as possible to share all of the information that I can and to help support business owners. So if you have a specific question for me, you'd like me to make a video on it, just drop me a message on my Instagram. It's on that links page. And I'll do my best to make a video. As I said at the start of the presentation, like I exited the operations of the business for the most part when I was 27, and I'm basically enjoying life now. I've built a successful business, and I'm in like semi-retired mode, traveling, flying helicopters, racing race cars, and doing all the like bucket list dream stuff. But what I enjoy most is seeing entrepreneurs succeed, and I believe that entrepreneurship is the path to freedom. And I believe it's the path to living a fantastic, fulfilling life on your terms. And so I want to see more people succeed in entrepreneurship and more people succeed in their businesses. With that, we'll go to a couple of questions. A couple coming through here. I'm just going to check my iPad first. No, okay. So no one put questions on the slide, so that's fine. So I'm just going to take Zoom questions for now. Wonderful. All right. My question is, do you generally not recommend mixing ecosystems in the stack like Microsoft Teams and then adding Google Sites and Workspace? Yeah, good question. You basically want to pick an ecosystem, whether you're using Google or whether you're using Microsoft. You're probably going to pick one of those and just stick with it. Google gives you some pretty cool, let's say, backdoor options in that if you are using the Google ecosystem, Google Workspace, you can still use all of your Microsoft format documents. So you can still use them in Google Drive. You can edit them in Google Drive for free, which is pretty cool. You're not going to have all of the features of Word and Excel, but you pretty much got just about everything you need to get work done. If you like using the local, experience of Word or Excel, you may choose to use the Google Workspace as an ecosystem for your mail and your contacts and your calendars and your meetings and all the other cool things that it includes, like classrooms and sites. But then just pay for a Office 365 subscription just for Word and Excel. Some businesses do that, and so they kind of stay in the Google ecosystem but still do a bit of Microsoft-y stuff. And you can, of course, drop your Microsoft documents into Google Drive and have them backed up and synchronized between devices and whatnot. I would ask why, when Google format documents have a lot of amazing collaborative features and pretty much have ticked every box in terms of feature parity for what you get, but for some people they just like the Microsoft way, and that's totally okay as well if you want to run both. I would recommend you choose one ecosystem and you stick with that. There is something else that I want to mention, though, on choosing software. And I've got a video on my YouTube channel specifically about how to make great technology choices. So you know what my framework is for actually choosing pieces of technology in your business. And I list down all of the different criteria that you should use for choosing great business software and making great decisions. Is when you've got all of these different apps and solutions here, you're typically going to find in your industry that you either have one do-it-all app, or you're going to have to piecemeal together a hodgepodge of different applications to make your business work. And that's usually, the balance. You're going to have one trying to do it all app that probably doesn't have every single feature that you need. But then on the other side of the coin, you're going to find, a selection of best practice tools that you try and get together, talking to each other and syncing together. I don't think there will ever be a perfect app for any business or for any industry. And if you think about the option number 3, which is to develop your own app and try and make it perfect, well, the downside of that is that you have all of the additional overhead of actually managing and launching and maintaining and developing your own custom application, which is my strong recommendation that you stay the hell away from if you're a small business owner. And so it's really a matter of, trying to find something that's 80% or 90% good, and making up the slack with automations. And so we use an app called Zapier.com, which you may have heard of. Zapier is basically an automation tool that allows you to connect all the different cloud apps within your business. So whether that's having a web form filled out on your website automatically going into a like a Google Sheet, or if it's when someone is added to my sales system as an opportunity, automatically add them to my MailChimp mailing list so they can get future newsletters. all of those apps talking to each other and getting them all connected and automated. We use Zapier for that, and that's also one of the supported apps inside our concierge program. And so you can just send a message to our team. They're basically technical VAs that are trained in Workspace, Copper, Hiver, Zapier, and all of these apps and tools that make a small business work. And you can send them tasks and say, hey, when someone fills out this form on my website, I want it to automatically go into this Google spreadsheet. Or, hey, can you build me a Google dashboard that takes my Google Analytics data and my sales data and, works out a conversion rate based on a calculation of those two numbers? Or can you take my sales targets and actually, put my zero numbers of my actual sales to date for the quarter against what my total opportunity pipeline is in my Copper CRM. They're all the kind of things that we can do. If you're a larger, more mature business and you want to get into KPIs and dashboards, they're the kind of things that our team can build out for you custom. So hopefully that answer was helpful for you. Wonderful. Okay, team accountability question. So Anthony has said we use 90.io as our EOS task management software. It's great for strategy and to-dos, but doesn't cover repeatable tasks like something like Teamwork does. Would you recommend using both, or does it become too complicated? Well, I don't know 90.io, but let me do a very quick reaction to it now. Okay. That may not be spelled correctly. My recommendation would be to use one app, Anthony. I would strongly recommend you use one app if possible for your strategic delivery. I'll show you what it looks like in our team for us to do strategic delivery inside of Asana. So we will have one project inside Asana. You can see here it's called Exec. And you can see here our financial year 22 plan has all of our annual plans there. Our financial year 23 plan has all of our plans there. And under each CEO objective, we have a set of seasonal tasks. So you can see we've got some S1 for season 1 tasks. We've got S2 for season 2 tasks. If you're running on quarters, that would also look like quarters as well. And then, for example, let's go and look into, where is one of my, let's see something that's got a subtask. Consultative approach capability for account managers. So you can see here who it's assigned to, which is one of our managers or pod leaders, why, how, when, who's working on it, and what are the subtasks as well as the due dates. And then any updates to that are actually pasted here in as project updates in the stream of chat, stream of comments inside the task. And so we run the whole EOS scaling up system right inside of Asana. Works brilliantly. It's more about making sure that you and your team are actually keeping disciplined in the work rather than which app you use. The app is important to keep it, kind of like onboarding connected, but really it comes down to the humans that are involved in making sure that, you're making sure the meetings are happening and accountability is there as well. And when we have a meeting, we open up our KPI dashboard. Everyone can see the numbers. There's no hiding what the reality of the numbers are. And then we open up our Asana boards and we open up our tasks and we look at, okay, where's this project at? And we put notes in Asana, and then we come back to the next week. And, it's only like 1 or 2 weeks of not getting your tasks done and then showing up to the team meeting looking like a bozo when it goes up on the share screen for everyone that you quickly get into line and get performing. So that's how we do it. The app is less important than rather than making sure that you get people on board. My preference is always for simplicity. I'm a minimalist at heart, and so I would recommend simplicity. Wonderful. All right. One last question from Steph. I've tried to set up Google Sites for storing all my systems, but couldn't access levels for different staff members, and it also appears publicly. Okay, cool. Yeah, so good question, Steph. If your Google site is appearing publicly right now, you just need to change the settings for the permissions so that it only appears for your company. So you need to set it to private. That's very important. Number 2, you cannot create certain levels of permissions within one Google site. You would have to create multiple Google sites, and that's how you would set different permissions for different people. In the old version of Google Sites, you could create different permissions and whatnot. My personal recommendation is that you don't bother trying to lock it down too much, because the reality is if someone in sales sees the process that finance has for paying payroll, none of the payroll information is in there, just the process for how to do it. So we just leave ours open for the whole team to see. And to be honest, they don't really care. They're busy doing their job. They don't really care about who does other processes inside the business. Your Google site should be about documenting how you do things, not necessarily putting the company data inside an intranet, unless it's like your marketing team and you want to have your brand guide in there, cool, awesome. Does it matter if someone on the support team or someone on the finance team sees the brand guide in marketing? No, it doesn't. If there is something like, for example, you have a set of contractors and you don't want them to see the strategic initiatives of the business, or you don't want them to see the intellectual property of the business that's been documented, okay, that may be a scenario where you create a second Google site. You have that one just for contractors, and you have your main Google site for your main employees. Hopefully that was helpful. Wonderful. 90.io. Okay, cool. Let me very quickly look at 90.io. EOS software. Interesting. Cloud-based. Cool. I mean, look, it looks all right, but from that screenshot alone, it does not look that different to what you could build in Asana or Monday.com and get 90% of the way there pretty quickly. Inside our Genius Academy, which you get free access to if you transfer your billing to us. Let me show you how to do that. It's itgenius.com/transfer. I'm going to drop this link in for you guys too. Oh, let me do that before I share my screen. This offer here is basically, if you're a workspace user, you can transfer your billing into us. You get access to Genius Academy. Inside Genius Academy, so you just go and fill this form in, and then the team will help you do it. Costs you nothing extra, but you get a bunch of goodies, and get access to discounts and everything else. But inside there is our remote work playbook, which is the 8-hour version of this presentation, which one of those goes deep into how we actually use Asana to implement the Rockefeller habits and EOS. So if you're interested in learning that, I've got a full open book on exactly how we do it. It's a full guide, and it'll teach you every single thing we do in Asana to make that happen. Or if you just want our team to do it for you, just join Concierge and say, hey, I want to do what Pete has set up, and the team will just do it. They'll just help you set it up because they know how it runs, and they'll help implement it for you. And with that, I'm out of time. I'm actually 4 minutes over time, but thank you so much for having me, everyone. It's been wonderful. And if you're interested, just jump on those links there. Connect with me, say hi on socials, follow me on Instagram, drop me a message. If you've got more questions, I'll make a video for you. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter, for that absolutely amazing presentation and incredibly insightful too. I actually did have one question if you've got 30 seconds there. Obviously, you talked about the established teams and how you engage them. What would be your tip for if you're looking to hire a team and you've got people that are wanting to have that kind of working remotely or working from home, or how do you actually start that process with new employees? So there's some great information for those that are already there. I know a lot of our members at the moment are looking to hire a team and are asking these questions of, do I want them internally or do I want them external? What would be your advice for some of those people?
So is the question that businesses have established teams in one location and how to shift the business to more of a hybrid working model?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. Look, that's going to take a change management process, and I also happen to have a very effective change management process in Genius Academy. That's going to take change management process. Let me think how I can answer this succinctly. Remote work is the future. I'm happy to. I'm just trying to give a succinct and practical, useful answer. Remote work is the future. Full stop. I was on the stage at Blueprint 2 years before COVID, saying work is going this way. Get ready, everyone. And then COVID happened and accelerated 10 years of progress in this area. What we were imagining back then, 4 or 5 years ago, was that people would switch from going to an office to instead going to a work hub. So think about a work hub like effectively a co-working space that will be in your local area, and you just go there to work. You walk there, or you jump on a bus or an automated Tesla or whatever, and you go and work there. And your co-workers are not from your company. Your co-workers are other people sitting in the co-working space. Which is pretty interesting concept, right? Because you get the opportunity to have all of the social interaction, but without the power dynamics of like, oh yeah, this person is also my boss. And you get all the bonding, you get the polarity, you get the, the spaces of, different spaces to work and be at home, whatnot. So fundamentally, I think this is the future of work. I think if you want to attract great talent, you should open up to different locations, and you should allow your team to have flexible work as well, because young people are demanding it. People are basically demanding it. Too late. Like, you've got to at least give people 1 to 2 days a week now. Absolute minimum. You must give people 1 to 2 days a week for flexible work. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to retain talent. That's just it. Full stop. Deal with it. But transitioning your team is just, I guess, a matter of you having a good look at your business and deciding, okay, how can I make this work? Because let me tell you, there will be competitors out there that will run rings around you if you resist this. You resist this change. And if you look at our business, IT Genius, like, we spend, most businesses in the consulting arena will spend 50 to 60% of their gross profit on labor. And that's because they have, plus offices and all their other outgoings, right? But you usually spend, 50 to 60% of their GP on labor. We spend 33% of our GP on labor. And what that allowed us to do was to have so much cash available that we rolled up the whole market. We went to every Google partner in Australia who was selling workspace. I bought them all. It's about 10 businesses, and we rolled them all up into our brand, and just effectively wiped the floor with the Australian small business G Suite partner market. You have that opportunity if you take advantage of international teams with lower cost, but also attracting the right talent inside your company as well. You have an opportunity to either lead here or to lag behind. The actual changeover, you're going to run into the obvious problems, like, okay, if you hire a person in Perth and you're a Sydney company and everyone else has been asked to come to the office for 3 days a week, but you've got one person in Perth who's working at home 5 days a week, you're going to come into, the inevitable challenges of having to deal with the humanness of, like, oh, there's something different, happening there. Yeah, I'd say send me your challenges and send me your questions along the way, and I'll share my stories from the road on how you guys can do it as best I can.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Peter. A big round of applause for Peter, everybody. Thank you so much for that amazing presentation. Amazing. Feel free to share your biggest takeaways in the chat. I'd love to, and I'm sure Peter would love to know what you found really useful and what was insightful. It'd be great to hear from you guys what your biggest takeaway from today was. Say thank you, Peter. Thanks very much. Yeah, great to see so many thanks in the chat. Amazing, guys. So that does wrap up for today on how to effectively run remote teams. Now, next week, just a little reminder for you all, we don't have a workshop Wednesday next week. Instead, we have something incredibly special and exciting for you all. Many of you have reached out from our conference, from the recent Blueprint conference, saying just how much you love Maz Farrelly. And I am 100% in that boat with you. I absolutely loved her presentation. And we've had so many messages from people asking, how can we get more time with Maz? How can we learn more from her? So next week, we actually have a special masterclass with Maz Farrelly, where she'll be running 2 90-minute workshops. The first one on how to pitch yourself, and the second one on how to pitch your ideas. So that will be in replacement of workshop Wednesday next week, which is super exciting to get that time with Maz, and we're very grateful for her giving up that time to run these workshops exclusively to all of our members. So if you are interested, if you haven't registered yet, you still can. Registrations are still open. Feel free to send an email to support@businessblueprint.com with the subject Masterclass, and we can help you get registered for that one next Wednesday and send you through all the details. But it will be an incredibly insightful event, so great to have that there. But also a massive thank you to Peter today for an incredible workshop today, and so many insightful little tips and tricks that can help all of us embrace the new working environment that we're facing. So again, thank you so much, Peter, and thank you everybody for joining us here today. And we'll see you all for Workshop Wednesday again in 2 weeks.